All right, guys, we are live and we're going to talk about anxiety and toxicity today. Um, let's see here. I'm going to make sure everything's up and running. And we are live. Okay, good. All right. So I got my PowerPoint up here. So let's go through that. See if we get the video up. Awesome. Let's minimize that. All right. So last week, let's recap what we talked about. The five main things that cause anxiety. Gut imbalances is number one. We talked about how 80% of serotonin is made in the gut, that gut brain connection. And we talked about how you can do stool testing to get the microbiome balanced so that your gut can actually make neurotransmitters. Now, here we're going to talk about toxicity today. And if you have gut issues, the bacteria in your gut will ferment what you're eating and release biotoxins into your system. Okay, and biotoxins are going to affect the brain and cause anxiety, depression, mood disorders, and everything else imaginable. And so that's gut imbalances. The other thing we talked about is the adrenals and the hormones. Okay, the adrenals is your circadian rhythm, and that really factors into your hormones. And we talked about last time, which is section 2, about female hormones, male hormones, testosterone. And we all know, when women's hormones are off, they're depressed, they're anxious, right? So inherently we know, right, when a female has her cycles, PMS, all that, how it affects your mood. Okay, so if we can get your adrenals and your hormones balanced, that's going to really support anxiety and mood. And again, just a female cycle is, I think, a perfect example of that. And next week, we're going to go over genetics and deficiencies, and we're going to go over emotional stressors. So let's jump into toxins. And again, we're going to actually redo some of this, and we're going to have a 5-part series. Today's number 3. We're going to do 4, 5, and then we're going to circle back. We're going to hit gut one more time and deficiencies, and we're going to hit each one about 15 minutes. So please stay tuned each week for those. All right. So a little recap. We talked about inaccurate blood work, right? You can't just go to your doctor and say, hey, I want toxicity testing. They're going to do some blood panel. It's going to be negative. It's not in your blood. It's in your brain. The toxins literally get deposited in your brain. Hey, Dr. B, you want to get on your phone and check Facebook Live, make sure everything's good. And so again, it's your brain is where toxins are deposited, and that's what's going to cause inflammation of your brain. It's going to cause anxiety, depression, neurological issues, brain fog, memory issues. So again, if it's not in the blood, that means it's in your tissue, and that's why blood testing is not accurate through conventional medicine. And that's why your doctor says everything's normal, right? You're depressed, take antidepressant. So let's talk about toxicity. Toxins trigger your immune system. They block hormones. So where a hormone would normally attach, it actually blocks that out, okay? And because the hormones are blocked, it causes weight loss resistance. And again, it affects the brain. Your pituitary, right inside your brain, affects all your hormones, controls your body, and it actually damages your pituitary. So, all right. So, we're all good? Dr. Jordan X. So we're talking about the toxic top 6 here. PCBs and dioxins is a big one. Pesticides, right? They're putting that on our food. They're putting that in the yard, everywhere. Heavy metals, right? If you have mercury fillings is a big one a lot of people have been exposed to. And heavy metals, you can actually get those passed on from your parents. If they had it, it can actually cross that blood-brain barrier. So, and guys, anyone that's on, feel free to ask any questions, post that so that we can answer them for you. We'll answer all those questions at the end. So, let's talk about plastics. That's a big one. We live in a plastic world, and that actually affects estrogens, affects the brain. And a big one is prescription drugs. All drugs by nature are toxins. So those are the top 6. I could go on. We could talk hours about them. But those are the 6 main ones to be: stop using plastic bottles, just try to use glass. Halogens are your fluoride, which is in water, so you need good, clean water. Bromine, flame retardants. So heavy metals, if you have mercury fillings. Joint replacements sometimes can cause that. Pesticides. Again, you need to get organic foods, things like that. So those are kind of the top 6 here. All right. So we talked about medication. So here's a little chart here, and it shows you Pepsid, Zantac, any kind of antacid. It causes deficiency in B12, folic acid, vitamin D, calcium, iron, zinc. Antibiotics causes deficiency in B, K, calcium, magnesium, iron. So Lipitor causes CoQ10 deficiency. So again, not only are medications toxic, they actually cause major nutritional deficiencies in the body, which we're going to talk about a little bit more next week. So a cool little chart here. Female hormones, B vitamins, selenium, zinc. A cool little test you can take for toxicity. If you're at home, you're like, I wonder if toxicity is an issue for me. You can go to vcstest.com. Again, that's vcstest.com. Doc, if you want to post that on there so they have it. vcstest.com. And that's an eye test, and it measures your eye's ability to differentiate different shades of gray. So if it's a slightly different shade, your eye won't pick it up if you have biotoxic illness or heavy metal toxins. Biotoxic illness would be fungus, mold, yeast, bacterial overgrowth, candida, things like that. So great little test, eye test you can do right on your computer. All right. So here's another way to test for toxicity, heavy metals, is through a urine test by doctor's data. You take a chelating agent which pulls toxins into the urine, and you collect the urine to get this result. This is someone that had actually she had anxiety, depression, and it was affecting her hormones and her thyroid. So just a cascade of problems. She was high in lead and mercury. We detoxed her of lead and mercury. Anxiety, depression went away. Testosterone came up, and her thyroid hormones actually came up. So pretty cool. So that's a test that we do here at our clinic. Mold. Florida is the worst state in the country for mold. So we do a lot of mold testing. That's a big one. Tons of people with anxiety, depression, brain fog, and they're just living in a moldy home, and they have a new home, and they just got a leak somewhere. Maybe they build these houses, in like 10 days down here now, right? And it's chintzy, you get water in there. So mold is a big test that we do. We try to track that down. So I got Dr. Benner here. He really is an expert in organic acids testing. So we talked about VCS testing. We talked about urine heavy metal testing. A really powerful test by Great Plains Labs is organic acids test. It shows us deficiencies, toxicities, inflammation, all kinds of stuff he's about to go over. And we have a special offer. Anyone that's watching, we're going to give everyone a discount if they want to do a test or a consult with one of us. You can actually get a consult and a test cheaper than you can contact the lab and get the test, okay? Because we order this stuff in bulk. So we're going to go over how amazing this test is and how it could possibly help you. And then we're going to give you a couple take-home solutions that supplements, food, things that you can start to do at the end of this talk to make those changes. So,
okay, very good. There we go. So, folks, as a functional medicine practitioner, I think Dr. Axe and I would share this. What we're always trying to do is look for the root cause. Dr. Axe went over some very, very important tests that look for very specific things. The organic acid test is kind of unique because it looks for very specific things, but it casts a very broad net. What organic acid test, folks, is it assesses the proper physiological or improper physiological action in your body via what basically urine, metabolites in your urine. Every physiological action that you have, there is a metabolite that comes on out. So if we are looking for imbalances in your body, what we're going to do is we're going to be going over 5 different things. There's many different things. We can actually literally take 2 hours to go over this organic acid test. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over 5 key things we're looking for that is going to affect imbalance in the body. But remember, anything that imbalances the body is going to affect the brain, depression, anxiety, so on and so forth. First of all, energy production pathways. What I'm going to do is this is just a little example of a report for, I want you to look at the bottom aspect where it says energy production. This is actually assessing your mitochondria. So if you think about your cell as a car, okay, and that car has an engine. Well, that engine is your mitochondria. Every cell has that engine in it. And if your mitochondria is not functioning properly, it doesn't have the energy to function or heal, okay? Thus, when we do not have enough energy, we can have fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, inflammation. The body does not have a chance to heal. And that does affect people with anxiety, depression, different type of mental issues. Go ahead.
I know for me personally, my mood, depression, anxiety, it goes directly with my energy. If I'm tired, it's because I have a lot of anxiety, I'm depressed. Amen. So they go hand in hand.
They do. But if you look at here, what happens, we have many markers. It's just not one. It has many markers because what it's doing is it's looking for certain nutrients for the energy, what's called the citric acid cycle. And so we could be deficient in magnesium. We could be deficient in coenzyme Q10. We could be deficient in certain B vitamins. The issue is when we listen to Dr. Axe or something of that sort, or Dr. Oz, in these videos, we start thinking about, all right, well, I need to add these things in. Well, when you sit down with us and we do these tests, we're actually looking into your physiology to not only see if you're deficient in one, but any of those. Because if you don't have all of them, you're not going to get the result. So it's very, very important to be able to have tests that look inside for your energy pathways. Why don't we scroll into the next one, Doc? Number 2, B vitamins. B vitamins are responsible for every physiological action in our body, but especially for our neural health and our brain health and our detoxification. So scroll that next one. In this next one right through here, we'll see many, many different markers. Well, we all know B12, we know folate, what those things do. But there's also a vitamin called biotin, and there's a marker called hydroxyisovalerate. When that is deficient, what happens is that's a sign that biotin is deficient. Well, biotin does a lot of different things, but if we do not have proper biotin levels in our body, we can't regulate our blood sugar properly. How many of our patients, when they have some depression, anxiety, have blood sugar dysregulation?
Almost all of them. I mean, it's not just high blood sugar, it's low blood sugar.
Amen.
If it goes up and down, right? Anxiety, your mood's up and down, it's all over. So that's when your blood sugar goes up and down, your mood's going to go up and down. Energy's going to go up and down.
Absolutely. If we look on the bottom, we also see 2 little markers. One of them is going to be assessing B12, and the other one's going to be assessing folate. Well, every patient, when we're trying to get their gut, we're trying to get their nervous system, we're trying to get their brain functioning, we want to make sure that B12 and folate are at their critical levels, and we want to be able to make sure it's very, very specifically done. So let's go on that next one, Doc. All right, third, microbiome. 80% of our neurotransmitters, right, are made in our gut. The issue is there's really no test to be able to see where the levels of the neurotransmitters are. So what we're going to do is we're going to be actually looking in the gut through the metabolites. So right through here, this shows us if we have any bacterial overgrowth. You mentioned the GI map. Okay, that's going to be assessing bacterial balance within the colon, what's called our microbiome. But we also heard about SIBO.
Yep,
okay.
SIBO's big.
SIBO's big, and we really don't have a test besides the organic acid test. I mean, there's some other tests, but this one is very, very specific to allow us via assessment of the metabolites to be able to see if your bacteria are behaving in your small intestine. If your small intestine is not functioning properly, your gallbladder is probably not functioning properly. Your pancreas is not functioning properly, or you may not have proper digestive enzymes. And remember, if your gut is unhealthy, so is your brain. We also can see if we have any yeast or fungal imbalance. We've all heard of candida and how that can affect the brain, the body, and cause inflammation. All right, let's go on the next one, folks. This is where it gets fun, neurotransmitter oxidative stress assessment. Now, remember when I said you cannot assess the neurotransmitters in the brain directly. And when we're talking about neurotransmitters, when we're talking about depression, anxiety, mood disorders, we're talking about primarily dopamine. We're talking about serotonin. And so what we want to do is we want to utilize these markers to see if your dopamine is high or proper or too low. there is a marker on here called homovalinate. And what that will allow us to do is to see if dopamine is actually being burned up real quick. We see that a lot now because kids are doing video games. We're on Facebook. That's hitting the dopamine receptors all the time. The problem is those dopamine receptors, that dopamine level only can stay high for so long before they start becoming deficient. So when we see either that homovalinate, either high or low, we know dopamine is an issue. Mm-hmm. But it's a balance between dopamine and serotonin, and we look at 5-hydroxyindoles acetate, and that will actually assess if your tryptophan and serotonin levels are proper. And when we start seeing that either high or low, we start to be able to assess, all right, where's dopamine, where's serotonin? Yeah. And allows us to be able to utilize certain amino acids and B vitamins to balance those out. The issue is if you hear that depression and anxiety is because of low tryptophan, if you have an inflamed brain, doc, you know about this. Yeah. We do not want to utilize tryptophan because what's called the kyurinate and quinolinate markers right below that, if those are high, folks, that is a sign that you actually have an inflamed brain. Mm-hmm. And if you take tryptophan, like most people do, go down to the health food store and take tryptophan, and that makes you worse, you're actually inflaming your brain even more. That's the reason why it's so important to have these tests to be able to see exactly what's specifically going on with you.
Yeah, again, we're trying to be more specific with this, because you can start guessing. Oh, I heard 5-HTP precursor to serotonin, or GABA. I need to calm down. Well, it might help some people. It might make other people worse. Like you said, tryptophan could make you worse. So this test helps us get very specific on how to balance each neurotransmitter. And there's dozens of different products you can take for helping regulate your mood and serotonin. And I mean, how many products out there are called Calm, you know? But this test helps us get very specific, so you're taking things that make you better instead of making you worse.
I guess the lesson in this situation is test, not guess, right?
That's it.
You're too important to guess, and so we have to see exactly what's going on specifically with you. This is where it gets fun, folks,
and this
because
is the last section. So this is number 5.
Number 5, detoxification pathways. And so as Dr. Axe, we talked about a lot of those toxins that we are just saturated with, and we're going to be able to see, go to that next one there, Doc. We'll be able to see why certain markers, specific toxins that can not only affect our body, but toxins will tend to put themselves in what type of tissue? Fatty tissue.
Exactly, the brain.
The brain is dry weight of the brain is 60% fat and cholesterol. Mm-hmm. Okay, so your body, wherever it stores those toxins in the fat, is always going to go to the brain to a certain extent. This first one is interesting, 2-methylhyperate. This is very, very common, folks, because if you ever hop in a brand new car, smell that brand new car smell, you appreciate it, but not anymore, because that is actually toxic. That will actually be xylene, and any petroleum-based products can have a lot of xylene, and we are being exposed to this all the time. So when we see that marker actually high, we know that we have one of the influences that is causing some brain issues or brain stress. Orotate is where there's a good example of proper or improper digestion. Mm-hmm. If we have a person that is having too much protein or not digesting that protein, what can happen is ammonia can actually build up in the body, and ammonia can actually affect the brain and body as well. The last one, sulfate. I mean, we could go through all these, but sulfur-containing products, what is it, cruciferous vegetables, all the good things, cabbage. There's a lot of supplements that have sulfur in them. We are very, very deficient in our society, folks, in sulfur-containing components. And if we don't have enough sulfur, our body can't detoxify. Exactly. So you're doing all these specific things to be able to detoxify you're seeing on the internet. And if you are not making sure that all these dots are connected, you're not going to get the result.
Yeah. And again, we like this. So this is a great test to put all of it together. Again, we talked about what are your toxicity levels? Yep. What are your nutritional levels? What are your mitochondrial and energy production levels? Do we have overgrowth, SIBO, candida, things like that? What are your neurotransmitter levels, and how do we get those balanced? So you can see this is a really, really powerful test that tells us a lot of information. You can't find this on blood work. None of this shows up on any kind of blood work. It has to be urine, has to be organic acids test. So again, test, not guess. So let's talk about solutions now. And, I want to go back to people that are jumping on and talk about anxiety isn't just a genetic thing or bad luck or I was born this way. I mean, this is a condition that affects the whole body and the brain, and it's multifaceted. It's not just take some neurotransmitter and fix it, right? It's our body works very synergistically. Every organ system works with one another, and that's why conventional medicine has failed us because we specialize in one area. But every area works with another area. So if you just isolate it, you miss the whole boat. And that's why we are giving you each week resources. Here's how you fix the gut. Here's how you check for neurotransmitters. Here's how you detox. So we're going through these one by one. So here's the solution for toxicity today. Okay? Remove the toxic exposure. If you're living in a home with mold or you have heavy metal fillings and you're getting exposed every day, you have to remove that first. If you're getting exposed every day, you're never going to detox because you're getting exposed. So doing testing can help identify that, or a questionnaire, or just looking at your history. Step 2, support the detox pathways. Now that you're not being exposed, we need to speed up the detox pathway so we can get more of it out. So we do that by supporting gut and liver health, right? We're going to talk about that again when we circle back to cause number 1 or section number 1. And then supplementation to boost detox pathways. Things like glutathione, zeolites, binders, which we're gonna talk about here in a second. So let's start with glutathione. That is a factor in the liver's natural detoxification function. It helps binding to heavy metals, neutralize toxins, and it's a protective antioxidant. So it actually helps protect your cells against radiation, chemicals, things like that. So glutathione is really, really big. And here's a liposomal form. And we're going to give you guys links to those so that you can actually purchase those. Fragmented zeolites. So zeolites is actually volcanic ash, and they're able to fragment them into little pieces that can actually trap metals such as mercury and lead. Metal X is another great product. It incorporates a lot of things, and that actually can help bind to metals. So that's a more simple solution. So if you guys want to learn how we do heavy metal detoxing, we're offering our members portal for free for anyone watching. So just go to our home website. I'm going to show you guys right now, axholisticmedicine.com. All right, you're going to scroll down all the way to the bottom, all the way where it says members only. Select members only, log in, and hit there's a download for heavy metal detox, and you can actually download that on there. Now some of those products like Metal X or glutathione, you hit the supplement store, boom, click that link, and you're actually just going to search, say, glutathione, and that's going to bring you right to liposomal glutathione, and you can purchase it right there. Okay. Other thing I want to show you, if you go to our home website and you want to learn more about organic acids testing and pricing, simply go to integrative testing at the top right hand side of our website, click it. You can see all the kinds of testing that we do, and you can scroll down all the way to the bottom, and we have this mycotoxins profile that has organic acids in it, and the tox profile that includes organic acids. So again, I hope this helps you get with this website, any product, any of the protocols that we do right on here. So, all right, let's finish up, guys. So I appreciate you guys watching. Please, there's millions of people just searching for answers, suffering, and that's why we do this. Me and Dr. Benner, right, 7:30 here on a Thursday night. Because people need this information. So please share this with people. I mean, everyone that's watching probably knows at least 20 people that need to know this. So just share this video so they can get educated and we can help them. All right. So again, we always want to have an offer for you guys. So normally we charge $165 for functional medicine, $150 for all that online access. And organic acids testing is around $330. So for all, you can either do organic acids, or we talked about Dutch testing last week for hormones, or stool testing. You can pick any one of those that you think most appropriate. And again, that would normally be around $645 for all that. $395. We're doing all that for anyone watching this video or mentions it. You get a test, you get all the online access, and a consult with me or Dr. Binner here. Or if you're someone that just wants a little bit more information, just wants to have a consult with us, instead of $165, it's $125.
Now, the organic acid test, that's essential elements or mycotoxin with that or not?
Yes, absolutely. You get a whole mold toxicity section or general toxicity, depending on what you think is going on. But if you suspect mold, that's the one to go for. So I appreciate everyone watching here, and we're so glad to be able to share this information. And do we have any questions? So we'll be online to answer any questions you guys have later. Tune in 2 weeks from now. We are going to talk about nutritional deficiencies, genetic variances, and how you can correct and support that to stop genetic and deficiencies that lead to anxiety, depression, all chronic disease. And I think that's it. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks, guys.